also have this breaking news to bring you out of California, where we are learning that 5 people have been killed in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, which is just north of Los Angeles. Malibu deputies are on the scene working with Los Angeles Fire on the investigation into what happened. The crash occurred just after 1 p.m. when reports of a downed aircraft took place on a hillside. And the Los Angeles County Fire Department just briefed reporters, and this is what they had to say.
Okay. Good morning, Tony and Brenda, Fire Captain, Public Information Officer, LA County Fire Department. Still early on in this incident. We received a call just before 10 a.m. this morning, LA County Fire Dispatch, of an aircraft down here in the Malibu area right off of Los Virgenes. It's essentially Calabasas, right off of Los Virgenes Road here. And apparently some folks were out here mountain biking this morning and saw an aircraft in distress that went down into the hillside. This was a helicopter. It's been confirmed that it was an S-76 Sikorsky helicopter, and unfortunately there were no survivors. Right now we're in the very early phase of this. We still have some fire activity on the hill, so LA County Fire Department units are doing a progressive hose lay right now to get water up. The aircraft is down pretty far from the road, so we're having to put several hundred feet of hose in to get up there to cool down the scene. And right now we're waiting for the arrival of NTSB investigators. There's not much more to add right now. We're still in the very early phase of this. We don't have any information as to who the aircraft belongs to or the victims or even the number of victims at this point. We just know that it's multiple fatalities and there were no survivors.
Communication from the helicopter to communication?
We've checked into that, and at this point I don't have any information as to whether or not the aircraft radioed any distress. We just know that the individuals that saw the aircraft said it was coming down at a fairly significant rate of speed and impacted the ground on the hillside behind me here and started a approximately quarter-acre brush fire. As I said, the wreckage is still pretty hot up there. Typically there's some magnesium involved in these aircraft incidents, so we have firefighters up there right now trying to make sure that we don't have any fire spread and trying to preserve whatever evidence we can for NTSB investigators to do their job.
We know what kind of helicopter it is?
As I said, it was a Sikorsky S-76.
We heard 3 or 5 fatalities.
We don't know, sir. We don't have a number on the number of fatalities right now.
How many people can that helicopter carry?
I don't have that information. It's easily researched, though.
Where was it going?
Don't know. Don't know where it came from or where it was going. Of course, that's information that will be forthcoming. We're in the very early phase. We're less than an hour into this right now, so right now we're just in the process of incident stabilization, making sure that we can preserve what we can for investigators to be able to do their job.
Is the weather not a factor at all?
Don't have any information to that, sir.
Are you in communication with the NTSB?
The NTSB is en route.
What agencies are here?
Right now it's Los Angeles County Fire Department, Los Angeles County Sheriff. We do also have some Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy emergency personnel as well.
What was visibility at that time?
Couldn't tell you, sir. As you can see, there's some fog. Whether or not visibility played a role in this, we don't have that information at this point. Still very early.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
I should have some more information in the next hour or so.
Thank you.
Okay. Your pen's up there. Put those off here first.
What's that?
Captain, just run fast.
Thanks, Tony. I didn't recognize you with your mustache.
Oh.
Again, no believed survivors from a helicopter crash not far from Malibu, California, in Calabasas. Still unclear what the origin, takeoff point from that helicopter was or its destination. Again, LA fire authorities, first responders, all there trying to determine what happened, and more on this investigation, of course, as we get it. All right, right now, President Trump's legal team is finalizing plans for day 2 of presenting their case against removal from office. They pick up again tomorrow. Now dead at the age of 41. Our Christine Brennan is with us now on the phone. So, there you go. All right, we're able to see you. Christine, tell us what you know and how this confirmation was made.
Fred, this is tragic and terrible news. And as people are hearing this news, now confirmed by CNN and other news organizations, it is hitting them as just one of the most unthinkable things you could have here. CNN has confirmed this news. Kobe Bryant, 41 years old, had retired just a few years ago from the NBA after a stellar career, one of the greatest ever, Hall of Fame. He played only his entire career with one team, the Lakers, and in many ways he was the Los Angeles Lakers. So when you think of Kobe Bryant, it's sports, but it's more than sports. He was a part of our culture. Olympic teams, Hollywood, the father of 4 daughters. So recently he has been seen at women's sporting events, supporting the U.S. women's soccer team, WNBA games with his girls, and all about the empowerment of young women as well. Controversy, of course, allegations of sexual assault many years ago, but he overcame that and has become such a cultural icon and such, not just about sports, but about our culture and a huge piece of Americana. And so that's why this news is absolutely tragic, stunning, and a shocker. I'm sure that as people are listening in and finding out about this, they are as shocked as I was when I heard the news. It's truly awful.
Oh, it is heartbreaking, and to see these beautiful images of he and his wife, Vanessa, and their 4 daughters. And one of his most recent projects, I mean, this NBA star, had also started this like children's, book program and was branching out into, animation, cartoons, as an educational tool for kids. He was very conscientious, Christine, of the power of his celebrity and taking it beyond, his 5 NBA championship title, perimeter, but making it much more broad and affecting a lot of people.
And that is why this news, it would be devastating anyway for anyone to lose their life. Mm-hmm. But then to have it be someone who has left the sports arena and has become part of our lives in so many ways. The Academy Awards. You mentioned his work in movies, his work in animation, his work with children's books. And looking ahead at the age of 41, still very young, looking ahead to a life and a career in all of those facets of media and of working for good. This is a man who he came right out of high school, right to the NBA, and has been one of those names and one of those people that has been around us for a very long time. We're in love with athletes on a first name basis, some of the biggest names, and certainly Kobe has always been one of those. And so yes, looking ahead, retired a few years ago from the NBA, but not retired from our lives, and not going away, and in fact being a part of, as I said, as you said too, the culture and entertainment, and showing up at the Academy Awards and being at places and big places, a big personality, a person who had so many more things to do. And I think if he had just been a basketball player and just been a great basketball player, that by itself would have made this news, of course, as stunning and as tragic as it is right now. But then because of the promise of what was yet to come and the fact that he would have had another 30, 40 years in the spotlight and was going to embrace those years, it's just, again, it's really it's awful news. It's terrible, and of course, it's something that I think we're all just coming to grips with right now.
Christine, I just watched a documentary last week that involved him and helped you remember what that retirement, that moment was like for him when he walked into the Staples Center and talked about how appreciative he was of Los Angeles and the Lakers of allowing him to grow up, of teaching him, to be a more giving player, what it was to become a team player. I mean, remarkable that audiences, were just reminded of that yesterday. Talk to me about your memories about how we watched him grow up with this huge responsibility, of being a professional athlete and being a rising star, and how he grew and learned about the responsibility, of being a high-profile athlete.
Well, you're right. He was a kid when we first heard about him. He's coming out of high school right to the NBA, and we know how hard that is because the players have done it. And LeBron James certainly has done it. Kobe did it. But it's rare, and it's rare that the arc of the story would be so successful and just so majestic. And Kobe did learn. He talked about the mistakes he made. He was a kid. He goes from high school right to the LA Lakers, and a spotlight that New York, LA, maybe Chicago. There's so few places that spotlight burns so brightly, and Kobe embraced it and went right into that. And of course, there were issues. And while it seems terrible to mention at this moment of his death that we're talking about the sexual assault allegations, the trial, that was a terrible moment, and that was not good. Obviously, I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. But within those mistakes, there was also learning. And there was also a sense from him, as we saw, as I mentioned a little bit ago with his daughters, of wanting to be a part of showing them this new world for women and opportunities for women and girls. And so as you look at the arc of his life and his career, and you look at how he's grown and became just a stalwart in our culture and in the community, and as I said, the things that could have been coming forward over the next 20, 30 years in his life. I mean, that is, the tragedy is losing him. What he has done, the history of Kobe, Hall of Fame, one of the great names in sports and one of the great performers ever in the NBA and throughout sports, but also the promise of what he could do in our culture moving forward. Even though he was retired, there was so much more yet to come.
As a 41-year-old man, still a very young man who could continue to make an impact and still will, I'm sure, even posthumously. Christine, thank you so much. I also want to bring in now CNN's Bryant Stelter.